So, in my opinion, the Callisto Protocol is massively underrated. And I think that, yes, it did have its problems, but there's always issues with every game that comes out. There is no game that's ever perfect. And I think that because there was so much hype and anticipation behind the Callisto Protocol, when the game released with some issues and people didn't like some of the gameplay mechanics and combat mechanics and the story and the main character, it created a negative energy, of course, around this horror game. And I want to talk, though, about will we ever get a sequel out of the Callisto Protocol? There were talks that we were going to get, a Callisto Protocol 1, 2, and 3 as a trilogy, similar to what happened with Dead Space. And obviously, with all of the negativity that came out and then the sales and things of that nature, it's making it a little tough to see if the future of the Callisto Protocol is for there to be continued sequels, or if Striking Distance Studios is going to shut it down and move on to another title. Let's talk about it. So guys, in an article coming to us from Shane Michael O'Gorman of Game Rant, leading up to its release, the Callisto Protocol was generating a fair bit of hype, aiming to be a spiritual successor to the Dead Space franchise, and even including many members of that original development team. The game was shaping up to be something special. Unfortunately, despite the creative team at Striking Distance Studios' best efforts, the Callisto Protocol was hit with a mixed reception and didn't live up to its potential in the eyes of many. Still, while it was quickly overshadowed by the Dead Space remake roughly a month after its launch, the Callisto Protocol wasn't a complete disaster and did amass a decent number of fans that praised what it got right. These players who enjoyed the title's atmosphere, outstanding graphics, and interesting emphasis on melee combat are holding out hope that despite its shortcomings, the game would eventually spawn a sequel. Although there have been far worse horror games released over the years, fans should not get their hopes up for a follow-up to the Callisto Protocol. And guys, I am definitely one of those people that is very much so, I love this game. Like, I think this game is awesome. Even the season pass that came later, we had DLC, riot mode. They were starting to add a number of things, and they were saying that they're going to be supporting this game for at least 4 years. So I'm hoping that at the very least they're going to be supporting it for the next 4 years. But the thought of a sequel in my mind would be incredible. I would love to see a sequel to this, kind of take the things that they did right, the things they did wrong, and what they can do different moving forward. And I think a lot of people would actually give it another chance. So AAA video games are no easy tasks, especially for a new studio. Striking Distance Studios was formed with developers originally from Visceral, as well as the Call of Duty series. While the overall design and gameplay of the Callisto Protocol is open to debate, it is difficult to deny the high production value on display in the game throughout the entirety of its runtime. The photorealistic character models, impressive lighting, and immersive audio design all shine in the game and definitely weren't cheap to produce. For this reason, there was a lot of pressure on the game, hoping that it would be a big enough success to recoup its production budget. Estimates within the company were that the Callisto Protocol would need to hit at least 5 million units sold. As of the writing of this article, the Callisto Protocol hit 2 million total sales figures. While not a bad number generally speaking, especially for a studio's debut title, in the case of this game, it was not what the studio was expecting. No matter what the quality of any game is or the number of fans it has amassed, money talks. If the original failed to find a large enough audience and rake in a high enough profit, a sequel is a much tougher financial investment for higher-ups to consider. And I agree with that. I do agree that, the sales were not good. They should, obviously it's crazy. I think that for a lot of you out there, the game has definitely been discounted in a major way. If you have not checked out this game, it's a great time to try it out because it's definitely on sale in a number of different places. But as mentioned earlier, the Callisto Protocol also received mixed reviews upon its release. Many gaming publications felt that it had a number of issues holding it back from being on the same level its many contemporaries like Dead Space and Resident Evil. While it is commendable that the Callisto Protocol also went for something a bit different with its stronger focus on melee combat as opposed to extensive gunplay, this was also criticized as being a bit clunky and repetitive. While financial figures play a big role in any game getting a follow-up, the critical reception can be just as important. The Callisto Protocol's reviews didn't set the world on fire, which could also translate to the studio a lack of interest from players for more from this franchise. And like I said, guys, I mean, the two things that can, really help or hurt a franchise is one of two things: money and the reception. If one of them's doing awesome and the other isn't, it's kind of 50-50. But if both aren't doing so good, it's really hard for a studio to, push forward and make another game. Now, could the Callisto Protocol become a cult classic? I think that's absolutely going to happen. And when that does happen, people are going to look back and see the graphical fidelity, kind of the things that they were trying to do. I just think right now, certain elements of the Callisto Protocol are misunderstood. They're just, the combat mechanics and things of that nature. It's just different. And with that, sometimes people don't like change in that way. And I think that if they made a Callisto Protocol 2, which I believe that they should, the bottom line is that they obviously need to really work on some of the combat mechanics of it. Even though I thought it was a great concept, having, my left thumbstick on my controller, being able to kind of dodge and things of that nature against enemies, it definitely wasn't for everyone. Speaking of Dead Space and Resident Evil, both of these series are at the top of their game right now. These franchises have had outstanding new entries in 2023 alone, and with other survival horror games slated for 2023 like Alan Wake 2, the genre has no shortage of content for gamers. Due to this competitive field and the original game failing to strike a chord, a sequel to the Callisto Protocol seems highly unlikely. And, the reality is, guys, is that I think the big thing in my mind is, when Dead Space came out, unbelievable. Second game I thought was even better than the first one. And then the third one was a massive step in the wrong direction. And it, failed in a number of areas. But years later, the community kept coming back wanting a continuation of the Dead Space franchise. And, everyone thought that Dead Space was, in a state of no return. And sure enough, the community's voice was heard finally because they made a remake. And now I think Dead Space is back for the long term because the remake did awesome and they're going to continue pushing that franchise forward, or at least they definitely should. The Callisto Protocol could be something very similar to this. I think that, Striking Distance Studios, when you just look at what they did with this game, I think there's a lot of things that they did absolutely incredibly. Now, will they say, you know what, the other thing that we've done is Call of Duty, maybe we're going to make a first-person shooter? They very well might do something like that as their next game. But in my mind, the Callisto Protocol is something so special that has the makings of greatness. And so if they were to go back to it, go back to the drawing board, figure out what they did right, wrong, and what they could do better moving forward, I think it could be something very, very special. But let me know, guys, do you think we'll ever get a Callisto Protocol 2? Let me know in the comment section down below. And for more of the Callisto Protocol content and videos, stay here with zrotv.